Deer are one of nature's most beautiful, graceful creatures. The state of Michigan has continued to provide a home for deer throughout history. The population has been estimated at about 2 million since 1989. Deer can be found throughout the nation, state of Michigan, and even in the local community. In recent years, the population of deer has continued to rise in Meridian Township due to high deer reproduction rates. This overpopulation has caused a long list of problems that include severe crop damage, more deer and vehicle collisions, increased spread of disease, and home property and garden damage.
Each year in the U.S., there are over 1.5 million deer-related accidents. In 2008, Michigan ranked second among all 50 states. There were also over 61,000 deer-related vehicle accidents in Michigan alone, taking 12 human lives and injuring over 1,600, with a typical insurance claim for a car deer accident being $2,100.
What kind of basic information might you be able to tell us about deer in general, like mating season, aggressiveness, the habitat, that type of information?
Well, deer are really adaptable. They can adapt to just about any kind of environment, and I see them in my own backyard. And I'm in Meridian Township in an Okemos neighborhood, and I have deer in my backyard on a regular basis. They of course thrive best in the woods. You'll find deer mostly in areas where there are acorns or natural food plots for them. Next to cornfields is another good spot you'll find deer. The mating season is in the fall, in November. Generally is when you'll see the mating season start, and deer become much more aggressive at that time. And they will be seen on and near and around the roads a lot more often at that time as well. Deer can be really elusive animals. If you're out hunting them, it's amazing how difficult it is to see them during the hunt. Yet there's other times that they're a nuisance, and they seem to be everywhere. Coming home in the evenings, when I come home from work, it's not unusual to see deer right in my neighbors' yards or walking across the road. They just seem to be all over the place, so they're very adaptable.
All right, the next question then, from your perspective, do you think the overpopulation of deer in the area is a problem?
I think it is, and I really applaud Meridian Township's efforts to try to control the deer population, because the car deer accidents are a problem for people that live in the township. People who have shrubs and flowers and different types of plant life, gardens, farmers with corn in the fields, the deer population is eating an awful lot of those things, and people have thousands of dollars invested in their plants and flower gardens, and it is an issue.
I know you briefly described the type of feeding that's happened, so aside from that in your life, has there been any specific incidences, I guess you could say, besides hunting, like any car accidents, or you know anybody who has an incident with a deer?
I've personally had a car deer accident and created a lot of damage to my vehicle. It was $8,000 worth of damage to my car, and I could have been seriously hurt. Fortunately, I wasn't. The car I was driving was a Honda Pilot, so it absorbed the shock quite well. But my son was also in a car deer accident just shortly after I was, and it's the kind of thing where you can't really tell that the deer is coming. They come out of nowhere off the side of the road, and you have absolutely no time to react. I had a number of times when I could have hit a deer, but was able to avoid the accident. But in this particular case, the deer was just there, and I was unable to even get my foot off the gas pedal and onto the brake in time.
There are two main possible solutions. Either we take action against the deer, or we learn to live with them. If we as a society decide to learn to live with the deer, there are two possible things to do. These include educating the public about the issue, or making areas deer-proof with fences. This would help protect gardens and landscapes. With vehicle deer crashes becoming more prominent in the state of Michigan, there have been many websites and companies that have come out with helpful tips to help drivers stay safe. Michigan State Police, for example, offers these tips. Vehicle deer crashes occur year-round, but be especially alert in the spring and fall. There are also deer signs that are placed at known crossings on the highway. Be alert for deer, especially at dawn and dusk. If you see one, slow down. Don't rely on gimmicks such as flashing your high beam headlights or honking your horn to alert deer. If a crash is unavoidable, don't swerve. Brake firmly, holding onto the steering wheel, and bring your vehicle to a controlled stop. Pull off the road, turn on your emergency flashers, and be cautious of other traffic. Report a crash to the nearest police agency and your insurance company. Aside from educating the public, one of the most effective methods of exclusion is a fence. Whitetails, which tend to plague most suburban gardens, are quite the jumpers. Make sure fences are at least 8 feet high, with no more than 6-inch by 6-inch gaps. Electric fences, which can be put up during the peak feeding seasons of early spring and late fall, are another option.
Hunting is one solution to decrease the overpopulated deer. Multiple state DNR agencies believe that hunting is a very effective, if not the most effective solution to decrease the deer overpopulation. What is often used, even in the past by Meridian Township, are controlled deer hunts. These are out of the normal hunting season hunts that target female deer, due to them mating with multiple bucks and then reproducing.
Alright, so the first question, briefly describe yourself and some of your life milestones, for example, where you grew up, college, that kind of information.
I grew up in St. Ignace, Michigan, which, if you guys know where St. Ignace is, it's in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, just on the north side of the Mackinac Bridge. And so, growing up in the Upper Peninsula, I was pretty exposed to hunting and fishing and wildlife and being out in the woods and that kind of thing. So for me, game management and hunting has been a way of life.
If you see a deer in your backyard, for example, what kind of traveling distance might that deer have in the area?
That's an interesting question, because my knowledge of deer is that they do travel and they will migrate from area to area, usually for purposes of food. If the food supply is changing seasonally, they'll move to a different area to find a place where they can have more food and a better habitat. However, most of the time, without a change in habitat, your deer are going to probably stay in about a 5-mile radius. So the deer you see in your backyard, generally speaking, might be the same deer you saw the night before.
What did you volunteer to do specifically in relation to managing the local deer population?
Meridian Township has a volunteer hunting program where they open up about 18 different land preserve properties in the township and allow hunters with proficiency to register to hunt for the township. And I volunteered for that hunt. And as part of that, I went to the Demmer Center here in the Okemos East Lansing area and took a proficiency class on hunter safety, and also took a shooting test so the people from the township and from the Demmer Center could see that my equipment was safe and effective to use, and that I was a safe and reliable person to be in the township hunting. And I volunteered, and there were numerous other people that volunteered. I think there was about 40 hunters total in the township, and it was a good time. I hunted from October to January, even in the winter when there was snow on the ground, and I was 5 minutes from my home. We had to use a bow and arrow or a crossbow. No firearms were allowed, and that was my weapon of choice, was a crossbow.
So aside from that, there's no other hunting for a while around here?
No.
In deer season?
No, in the township and in the land preserve areas, there is no hunting. Hunting has been restricted, so there's no natural predators for the deer. There's other than cars, and that's not a good way to control the population. So what the deer have done is there's enough land preserves and there's enough areas that the deer can hide and call their home, And I think there are people in the township that feed the deer, so that encourages them to come around more often. And there's nothing to control the population of deer, so that's why the township has gotten overpopulated with deer recently.
In your opinion, what is the best way to keep the deer from overpopulating?
You have to have some kind of game management plan, and I know there are certain natural phenomena like diseases and problems that deer have. Starvation can be a problem if the population of deer gets too high for a given area and there's not enough food. They will starve during the winter months. I know my shrubbery in the winter months, the deer will just eat it right down to the sticks of the bushes because they're looking for food. So deer will naturally have population adjustments, but probably a better way, in the way that we use in Michigan, is we have game management plans like deer hunting seasons where it's strictly regulated. There's a certain number of doe permits and a certain number of hunters will take deer in a given year, and that's how our game is managed mostly in the state of Michigan.
Is extending the hunting season an effective way to keep the deer from overpopulating?
That's a balancing act. In Michigan, we rely on deer to spur our economy. We have hunters from all over the United States that come to Michigan to go deer hunting. Deer hunting brings business to restaurants. It brings sportsmen to the sporting goods stores to buy clothing and hunting equipment and so forth. Deer camps are very popular where people will buy property and they'll build cabins out in the woods. And many families have lifelong experiences where they go with their relatives and friends and go out into the woods to deer camp, and people have great memories of doing that. So I think that what we're doing right now is probably what we should be doing. It hasn't always been done, and early in Michigan's history, when there was no regulation of the deer population, people shot deer randomly and the deer population was nearly wiped out. So I think game management is a smart way of doing it, and you do have to strike a balance. You can't overmanage and you can't just let the population go. You have to have a proactive position.
Could it be that the deer really aren't overpopulated, but it's more the fact that we continue to expand our living area and the community into their natural habitat?
That's absolutely true. You see new subdivisions going in where the deer, are comfortable residing, and we go in and we put in new subdivisions, or we clear woods area for a new store, and we're pushing the deer further and further out of their own habitat. And that's an issue that we're dealing with, and it's certainly a balancing act. Is it the deer's fault that they're in our habitat, or are we infringing on their habitat? So I totally see that both ways.
How many deer did you kill during your time at Meridian Township, and how many were you able to keep out of that number?
The Meridian Township program allows the volunteer hunters to keep the first deer that they shoot. It's required that you shoot does with the township permits, and I shot 3 deer with the township permits. And the first deer I did keep, and the second 2 deer that I shot, I took to Marindorf Meats, where they were processed and donated to a food bank called Sportsmen Against Hunger.
Although there are different proposals as to how the deer population should be managed, the only realistic one is hunting through game management programs. Meridian Township's own game management program was quite a success, and not only helped lower the deer population, but it also fed local families through Sportsmen Against Hunger. Overall, hunting is the most cost-efficient method and will continue to work better towards the overall goal of lowering the deer population.